Well, hello everybody. We are here just about ready to get started. This is Francisco Surratt, and I will be your host today. Very happy to have everybody here. See some clients, see some new people, and it's always great to have a chance to just share what I've learned and worked with. I'm wearing headphones because I'm working from home and I have some background noise, so I hope this helps contain some of that. Today, what we are going to talk about is these 4 tough stories and of widows who lost everything and how to not repeat their mistakes. That's the big takeaway. I'm not just going to give you some bad news. These are avoidable mistakes. These are avoidable stories. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dig into this and learn a little bit from their life and hopefully give you something that you can take away and apply to your life. This is not necessarily exciting stuff to talk about. We're not planning your next cruise, your next trip, right? With coronavirus and everything, so much of that is shut down. But we are talking about planning and creating how you will be remembered and what your legacy will be and how maybe the rest of your life will be. And I hope that is important and valuable for you. I care about it deeply. We get phone calls and questions so much from people after it's too late to fix the problem, and that sucks. If you've ever just had questions or wondered about, gosh, what is this? I'm struggling to feel like I have financial security. I'm struggling to understand how all these things are going to work between me and my husband. Or if you're the child of somebody who is a widow, or is going to become a widow, you just worry. And there's things that cause us to worry. Then you're in the right place. That's what we're going to hit on, and I know you're going to walk out of here with some good tools to help, I think. Now, State Bar makes me do this every time. We have to make sure this is not legal advice. This is not specifically crafted for your family. So, if you need that, I will tell you how to get that. That's what we do, but this is general information of an educational nature. I hope it does help you figure out some things that you have questions about. So let's get it digged in. Well, I guess before we do, for those of you who don't know me, this is my wife and my kids. I'm the founder and CEO of Keystone Law Firm. All we do is estate planning. We protect your assets. We basically help families create a new legacy, a new trajectory, a new path, a new, so you can plan for that. That's what we do. And I'm a 2-time author. Actually, give you a little secret. I'm actually working on book number 3. Excited about it. It's going to, I think, be transformative for a lot of people, a lot of families out there. And this is all we do. So that's where I get this experience. It's where I've learned these stories. That's how I know the answers. That's how I know what these things are that need to be fixed. So that's what we're going to talk about. Our outline, we're going to dig in on these 3 things. These are the 3 things that you're going to use to actually solve these problems. The 4 big stories that I want to share with you guys are, they're built on true experiences that happened with actual clients of ours. It's frustrating for us to be called into problems after they're already a problem and there's nothing we can do except sort of plow our way through it. But we get called in for that. And so I hope you can learn from these widows' experiences and not have the same experience. So the first 2 have to do with what happened to them actually while their husbands were still alive. And the second 2 are what happened to them after their husbands passed away and they were the surviving spouse. So in the first example, the first story, we got a phone call. It's funny, phone calls, like, oh, I think I need help with this, or do you have information about that? And then we might not get the next phone call for like 4 years or something, and then they'll call back and say, okay, I'm ready to get started. And so we got a phone call, never heard from him again. I can't say again, didn't hear from him for years. Then we finally heard from the children, the adult children, and they brought their mom, and the story was that dad was had Alzheimer's, and it was at a point where they had followed what they were told to do, and now they were ready to take the next step. So what they were told to do years ago, not by us, what they were told to do years ago when Dad first had to go into a memory care unit was that he didn't qualify for veterans help, he didn't qualify for Medicaid help, or in Arizona it's called Arizona Long-Term Care System, it's called ALTEX. He didn't qualify for that, and so they were told he has to just, spend down until he's below the limit and then can get help. And so he spent their whole life savings down by paying that monthly. In Maricopa County right now, the average is about $7,100 per month. It's a really big expense, $85,000 a year. So they didn't have much savings, so they bled through that, all of their nest egg, their entire life savings in just a couple of years, while she lived at home on the Social Security, which was about, I think they were getting about $1,100 or $1,200 a month. I mean, really, she was having to live very frugally. The children were having to help financially just with different things as they came up. And I can't even imagine just watching the love of your life, right, have to live like that, first of all, have to suffer with that disease. I mean, you love my wife. I cannot imagine seeing her go through that if it ever happened. But then watching your life savings just completely, just every month, just get hammered and hammered and hammered till finally there's nothing left. And that's when they came and they said, we need help applying for ALTEX, for Medicaid benefits. Can you help us do that? And they told me this whole story, the history of what happened, and I just hung my head down. She had lost everything. She had lost her husband, essentially, because at that point in his disease, he wasn't consistently recognizing her or the family, and his disease was declining severely. She had lost him. She had lost their entire life savings. She had $1,100 or $1,200 a month to live on. And now what? Now they needed to get him on Medicaid to pay for the nursing home bill, which is, at that point, once you have nothing and you have the need, it's actually quite simple. They don't need a lawyer's help. They just phone call to Medicaid ALTEX office, and boom, they just process the application over the phone. It's pretty straightforward. There's a lot of paperwork and everything, but it's pretty straightforward. What killed me about that is that they could have prevented that. They didn't have to spend all of their life savings. She just completely lost everything. And then I'm obligated to tell her, you didn't have to do that. You could have done something else and saved your life savings. Who told you that? And that, it's the standard answer. We called Medicaid back then, and they told us we'd have to spend it all. Well, they're not allowed to give her strategic advice. I get it. So they don't, there's no blame, I guess, there, right? They're immune. I don't know. So that's the first story. She literally lost everything. And then it wasn't that long later, her husband passed away. There really wasn't any money left. And they were trying to figure out how to get rid of the house because it was upside down, a reverse mortgage, and just gather up what little she had left to be able to move in with one of her daughters. And oh, here comes the doorbell. Maybe not. So that's the first story. Is this poor family who she just lost everything. The second story is from a gal who a different, unique twist. Okay, so this was another similar in one way, but then completely different in another way. This was a second marriage, and the husband started to show some early signs of dementia. And when that happens, you're seeing the doctor. They were in their, I think, mid-70s when this happened. And he started, you're seeing the doctor on all their things, and they start to see that. And so there starts to be discussion about what this is. And life sort of progresses slowly to the point where him and her jointly together, they agreed, I've done all I can to take care of you at home. It's just not safe. I can't do everything. I'm going to hurt myself. I'm going to hurt you. And they made the decision together while he was still competent for him to move to a nursing home, a assisted living facility. They went around, they shopped, they looked at all good different kinds, found one close, and there was enough money, plenty of money for him to be able to do that and for them to just pay out of pocket. And then they made the transition, and as hard as that would be, they made the transition, and she's over there every day, visiting, having lunch, having dinner, taking him shopping, taking him out for, a restaurant, whatever, right? But the bulk of his day-to-day care was, provided in that setting, so it was safe and consistent, and they had lots of emergency protocols and all that kind of stuff, right? Well, his disease continued to progress like it does, and he started to sort of lose a little more and a little bit more and a little bit more ability to oversee anything that was happening around him. And at some point, like I said, this was a second marriage. At some point, his son from prior, it was her stepson, starts to help out a little more, starts to offer more help and offer more help and offer more help. And she was just grateful. I mean, there was there's no indication. Nobody's mean at the beginning, I guess. I don't know. And so she's like grateful for his help because she's not that financially savvy. She wasn't really involved in all of the finances. And so I was grateful for her stepson's help. He's kind of the only one who's stepping up, and so she's grateful. Well, after more and more and more months go by, it just gets a little bit worse with the stepson sort of tightening down at her access to the money. And he starts to sort of consolidate and gather everything under the trust, but with himself as the trustee. And because of that, it sort of diminished her access to all the accounts. And pretty soon she just had access to the one account, and it wasn't paying any more, automatic transfers or deposits except for her own Social Security, which wasn't much. And she starts to have to ask him for money every month. And at first he's for the bills and he's paying for the expenses that she's maintaining. And then he starts to stop, and then he starts to pay for fewer and fewer things. And it finally got to a point where she literally had to call us, and her only option, even after we tried to get him to be reasonable, her only option was to literally file a lawsuit against him. That lawsuit went on for about a year. And after about a year, ended up, they had tons of money. They had plenty of money. But he had fought that lawsuit so hard, made it such a nightmare for her, that she ended up sort of doing a little rough calculation to say, look, what do I need to live for the rest of my life? How quickly can I get out of this lawsuit, because I just want to live my life and visit my husband. And offered a settlement, and they took it, and it just ended with her losing tons. And because they didn't update their plan, they didn't really take into consideration all of the nuances of having a blended family, or even not having a blended family, just maybe or maybe not having a child who's going to completely and utterly support both spouses. So this was the second example of somebody of a widow who lost basically everything during the last few years of her life. Example number 3, story number 3, is a gal who her husband passed away very suddenly, very unexpectedly, and quite young. He was one of these who just had a massive heart attack and ended in the hospital a couple weeks later on life support. Nothing was changing, and they decided to remove life support. He was super fit, super healthy, and just one day in the kitchen, he just dropped over. And from that moment forward, her whole life changed. She's young, otherwise was a happy, healthy, having a great life, and this just changed everything. Their children were somewhat estranged, unfortunately, and that is what launched this into a nightmare. She ended up with about 2 years in battle against the kids over fighting over the money. And it was such an ugly nightmare battle that she just bought her way out of it by letting them take a massive, massive chunk of money. And she's so young. I mean, she's young enough to go back to work, but she would have been wealthy enough to never have to go back to work. But now she's looking at her life and she's thinking, yeah, realistically, I need to. Completely avoidable, absolutely avoidable. But they didn't. He had a questionnaire filled out to do his will, and he never finished it. He never went all the way through. And that's what ended up happening. Cost her thousands of dollars in legal fees. Cost her multiple, millions of dollars in lifelong financial security, and just destroyed really the memory of him. I mean, I remember just watching how difficult it was to comprehend that my husband, she's sitting there, my husband didn't do this, didn't take care of this business, didn't take care of me, and was left with that. I mean, that completely changes the perspective, the memory, the what we call the legacy that he left behind. The fourth story, I gotta grab my note. Let me flip back a couple screens here. The fourth story is another one of a blended family situation after the husband had passed away, and this was actually a little bit. I thought this was quite a unique situation. So this couple is a second marriage. He had children from a prior relationship, and he did set up in his trust the ability for the trust to take care of her for life. But he made one critical, just absolute mistake. He put his children in charge of that trust for her during her life. And I don't know what the counseling was between him and his attorney when he set that up. I would certainly hesitate to do that, except if it were, just an open, beautiful, transparent relationship while everybody was alive. It would be so hard to convince me to recommend that, but somebody convinced him, or he stuck to his guns and said, no, that's what it is. Because when he passed away, guess what they did? They shut it all down. They said, nope, we're not making any distributions. And totally devastated her financial security for what she thought her husband was taking care of her. And there really wasn't anything she could do, because it was there in writing, in a legal document, and what could she do? She's in the middle of, this is happening in another state, but she's in the middle of litigation around this to try to do something, because everybody knows he would have wanted to take care of her. And right now the trustee is not doing that, is saying, nope, they've got the discretion to say no, and that's what they're doing. So those four stories are what just drive me to say, you need to know how to avoid that. And that's what we're going to talk about. So we're going to spend the rest of our time talking about. Thankfully, for those of you who are watching, who are here listening, if you already are a client of Keystone, if you are a Trust Care member, you've kept your plan up to date, you are creating your legacy 1 year at a time. If you already are doing that, you are likely already covered on all of these things. You don't need to worry about it. But if you're a new client to us, if you haven't yet done that, then I would invite you, I will tell you how to get into a conversation with my team, because it's something you got to consider if your financial security, if your future is not already perfectly laid out. So these are the 3 things we're going to cover. How to not lose everything as a widow. Financial security is a myth only for the ostriches, for those who stick their head in the sand. Okay? Absolutely believe that. Number 2, don't become a burden on your kids. I don't want you to become a burden on your kids. I don't. I want you to remain financially independent, secure, so you can make whatever choices you're happy with. If you want to move in with them just because you want to, awesome, do it. I don't want you to have to do that because of finances. I don't want you to have to ask them to support you because of financial issues. I want you to be able to stand on your own financial independence. And then 3rd, even in simple situations, no matter how simple it is, you need to administer the estate of your husband if he passes away before you. You have to. Nothing is automatic, even if it feels automatic. And we're going to go through that, how to do that. All right, Financial Planning 101. Okay, like I said, financial security is a myth only for the ostriches. So if you're not an ostrich, if you want to pick your head up out of the sand, which you're here, so I'm congratulating those of you who are here that you're doing that. It is not a myth. You can have financial security, okay? There's a couple big things you've got to know in order to get there. Number 1 is what my friend John teaches and preaches almost every day of his life. When I met him, gosh, what was it now? 7, 8, maybe 8 or 9 years ago, actually now. We met for lunch, and then, so I'm a estate planning attorney. He's a financial advisor, and we met over lunch one day, and I was like, wow, we really got to get to know each other a little bit better. So we ended up meeting a few more times, and then finally one day I sat down. Okay, I said, dude, tell me, what do you do? Like, I need to know how you do this stuff for your clients. And he kind of gave me the eye, like, really? You want to hear it? I don't ask every financial advisor I meet to give me that answer, because I've met hundreds, and I don't know, 95% of the time it's a total sales pitch. You hear it just oozing out of them. It's just a sales pitch. And so I don't typically volunteer to get into that conversation. But John had something about him that really sparked my interest. And I said, all right, dude, tell me how you do this. And he said, all right, dude, come on in. So I sat down with him, and he said, it's going to take about an hour. Went through. He said, just bam, 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 bam. Just started laying on me like this information, just tons of information about how his industry really works, about how financial advisors actually get paid, about why certain things, certain stocks and certain mutual funds and certain annuities get recommended, and why financial advisors call their client and say, hey, I've got a great idea. And he went through and explained a ton of things, which I'm going to share what I can remember right now with you. And I remember sitting back in my chair and breathing like this big, sigh. And I thought, holy cow. Or I think I said out loud, John, oh my gosh, I'm a smart guy. I have an engineering degree. I have a law degree. I practice estate planning. I've helped clients protect millions and millions of dollars. I've done tax work. Like, I'm a smart dude. I didn't know all this. I said, why don't more people know this stuff? And he just said, it's because financial advisors make way more money when they do it that way. And they don't want anybody to really know. It's like it's all buried in the fine print, but nobody really explains it. Nobody really tells their clients, here's how we're getting paid. And I just went, oh, that makes perfect sense. I totally get it now. So the big couple takeaways that I want you to have for your financial security, number one is you've got to know how your financial advisor is being paid, period. You have to know who is writing them a check for their payment. They aren't free. Never, 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 okay? It's like you go to the doctor and the doctor says, hey, I'm going to prescribe to you either this drug here, this blue Keystone pen. I'm going to prescribe to you this drug here, this black marker. Those are the two things that might cure whatever's ailing you. If the doctor prescribes you the black marker and you get better, you're happy, right? Well, if the doctor prescribes you the blue pen and you get better, you're also happy, right? Well, what if the blue marker would actually get you a little bit healthier at a little bit cheaper cost than the black marker, but the doctor never tells you that? You don't know. And so here's what happens. Doctors, I should say financial advisors, are prescribing investments, and they're not telling you which one they're getting paid more on. Okay? They're not. They just don't. They don't have to say, hey, I recommend you invest a big chunk of your portfolio in American funds, and they'll say because they're great, they've got a track record, they've got a history, blah, 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 blah. What they're not telling you is because I get an 8% commission on every dollar that my clients invest here. And then also, if I can just get another, say $1 million of all clients to invest in here this quarter, I'm going to get sent on this beautiful cruise with my whole family as a bonus. They don't tell you that either, but that's the truth. Can you imagine if doctors got that kind of bonus if they prescribed drug A versus drug B? It would definitely influence them no matter how well-meaning they were. It would definitely influence their way of thinking. They'd start to think, well, drug A is just as good, isn't it? Yeah, and plus, my family gets a bonus. That's how I think it's about 85% of financial advisors operate under a commission-based model. Same thing with insurance products and annuities. They are paid a commission. And so you need to ask straight up, how much is your commission? Period. Flat out. And if they don't give you an answer looking you straight in the eye without any hesitation and with confidence that it's in your best interest that they be paid this way, then that's where your little hairs on your neck are going to go up and you will start to question. And you should question. That's what you should question. So that's number one. You need to know how they're being paid and how much it is. Number two, it is not hard to figure out the rest of your life's financial plan. Okay? It is not hard. A good financial advisor, they have to use lots of software and they have to do lots of, number crunching and figuring things out. But a good financial advisor can sit down and show you, okay, you've got this nest egg right now, you've got this much coming in through Social Security or pension or whatever, retirement, and your monthly expenses are this. They know how to project that out over the next 5, 10, 20 years and show you what needs to change or nothing needs to change. They can figure in your taxes, they can figure in okay, every 5 years you're going to need a new car. They can figure in you're going to need to, what if what if the AC goes out? They can figure in, well, what if you need a nursing home? I mean, they can figure all of those into different scenarios and show you what happens. That's the power of a financial advisor who knows how to do it, okay? And it's not hard for them to do it. They use very good tools and they use their brain and all their training and education to do it. And at Keystone Wealth Partners, that's our sister company, that's what they do. They do that. It's called a retirement map. It's totally free. They don't charge you for it. I totally recommend you take advantage of it if you haven't done that yet. That's the power of a good financial advisor. So number one is knowing how they're paid. Number two is getting that financial plan put together so you can actually see you've got financial security. And I've seen them do some amazing things with clients who don't have a large nest egg, who just have, they've got their they've got their nest egg, and it truly has to last them the rest of their life. They do a really good job of making sure your dollars stretch. And then I've seen them do amazing things with clients who have more than enough, figuring out ways to reduce taxes every year, because taxes can be such a giant hit when you've got enough money. And so I asked John, I said, look, dude, all of this craziness, this is insane. I mean, people need to know that this is wrong. And so that's why they do all the education they do in the community. They said, well, how do you do it? Like, how do you guys do it? And he said, it's pretty simple. He's like, I gave up. He totally revoked the license that is required in order to get paid commissions. So he doesn't carry that license anymore. He gave it up years ago. He said, we can't get paid commissions. So we don't get paid commissions. He said, we get paid an annual fee based on how well the client does to continue to service them, to continue to take care of them, to continue to help them plan and make financial decisions and think about their life and how this matters. And he's like, honestly, it's like the way the other industry, the rest of the industry does it, they can make in 1 year off of a client what it takes us like 8, 9, or 10 years to earn. It's like, so we really have to work for what we get paid. He said, and we only do better when clients do better. And so we're incentivized, like we need to do better for our clients. And they just do tons of ongoing maintenance and assistance and advice and planning and coordination with us, the estate attorney. And now they have the CPA tax services in-house, and they just coordinate your whole financial life. So that is the trick, I guess, if you need to know one, is work with somebody who is a fiduciary and not commission-based. Okay, so that's Financial Planning 101. Take that question to your financial advisor. How are you getting paid? How much, I want to know, the dollar or the percent, how much is your commission for each thing you're recommending me? Because I need to know that in order to make a decision about which thing I think you're recommending. And then you might as well ask them, what aren't you recommending to me that might also be a good fit? These are the questions you got to ask. All right, number 2. Don't become a burden on your kids. You might hear my kids in the background. That's awesome. Don't become a burden on your kids. We've seen this. The first story I told you about today was a gal who was coming in. Her husband had depleted their entire life savings, and she knew she's about to become a burden on her kids. I have another gal we were talking to actually at a party, and her mom has early stages of Alzheimer's, still living on her own. But she knows she's the responsible daughter. She knows that when it gets to the point where mom needs to move into a nursing home and mom's not going to be able to afford it, it's going to be $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 a month, and she knows it's going to come out of her pocket. She's already trying to figure out how can her and her husband figure this into our budget. Holy cow, right? They've got kids in college. They've actually still got a young one, and they're going to have to add on to it a $4,000, $5,000, $6,000, $8,000 a month bill for her mom. You want to avoid that. I want to help you avoid that, because these emergencies, they happen. They're real. They come out of nowhere. I mean, sometimes we don't know, and you can plan ahead for this. Planning ahead for this means talking about some uncomfortable things. Talk about some things that aren't fun, doing some things that may not be that comfortable, like having an open conversation with maybe that one adult child who's the responsible one, who's the one you know you're going to lean on, and saying to them, look, this is uncomfortable for me. But it would be worse is if something happened to me, I couldn't talk to you about this, and it was just all fell in your lap to figure out and to pay. So I'm going to choose the least comfortable option. They're both uncomfortable. This one is a little bit less worse. That's what this requires. It requires us to step into that and to own it. And yeah, I mean, it's the things you've done your whole life, right? If you have kids, if you have a husband, it's the things you've done your whole life to take care of them, to take care of your kids. You know what that's like. This is one more thing in this stage of life. So the things to look forward to here, there are the biggest financial risk to your financial security absolutely, hands down, no questions asked, is nursing home, period. Nursing home expense. The numbers, the statistics show it's about 60% of 65-year-olds will end up needing a nursing home. The average stay is 2 to 3 years, and with the average cost being $7,000 a month, it's a $150,000 to $250,000 expense you're going to have to plan for. And if you don't end up needing it, hallelujah, praise the Lord, your kids will inherit a little bit more. And nobody's going to complain about that. They will not complain about that. You won't complain about that because that means you will not have been a financial burden on them if you have something to leave behind. It's a huge financial risk, so we've got to plan for it. There's only 3 ways to take care of it. You're going to pay for it out of pocket. You've got more than enough. You're going to use some kind of insurance policy. Maybe you've got long-term care insurance, or you're going to qualify for one of the benefit programs that exist, okay? If you have enough, if you've got $250,000 or more sitting in your nest egg, or in your home equity, and you don't care if that all gets bled down to the nursing home, then you're good. That option is done. Second option is insurance, okay? Now, insurance is sometimes only available, it is generally only available while you're healthy, okay? You can't like get into a car accident and then rush out and buy car insurance, right? Same thing with nursing home. You can't be moving into the nursing home or already in and say, I'd like to buy insurance for this now. It doesn't work that way. So you have to get it way ahead of time. Generally, there's 2 kinds. Either one kind where you have to go through health underwriting, okay? Any pre-existing conditions, and you're not going to qualify. The other kind doesn't have health underwriting, but it's because it is built onto an annuity. And so there's just a little annuity rider that goes with it that gives you like, I'm going to put $50,000 in there. And depending on all the numbers and the insurance calculations, maybe they'll agree to give you $150,000 of coverage for nursing homes. So that's another option, okay? So first option, you're just going to let your estate pay for it all. Second option, some kind of insurance. Third option, some kind of benefits. 2 benefit programs. There's Arizona's Medicaid program, and then there's the VA benefit. Okay, very complicated, very hard to qualify unless you're just dead broke. We help people do that every day, all day. So far, we have 100% qualification rate on both programs. So those programs, now the VA program doesn't pay as much potentially as the Arizona Medicaid program, but sometimes you have more flexibility on how you spend this money. Neither one of them require you to move into a government home, okay? They have contract providers, private homes around town, either, the group home style, like that's in a neighborhood, or the big facility like Beatitudes or something, right, where you're in a facility. So those benefits can pay for, $1,000 a month, or they can pay for 100% of it, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10,000 a month. The biggest one we've ever gotten qualified was for what was it? The dad. His bill was $21,000 a month. $21,000 a month. Insane, right? Huge. I mean, they were going to bleed through, but bam, got him onto Medicaid, and they paid for it. So that's the first way. You're just going to bleed your estate, let it pay for that $100,000, $200,000 expense. Second, you're going to get some insurance. Or third, you're going to look at the government programs, either Medicaid or VA. Like I said, these are not government homes you move into. Your family go around and shop which home you like. And if they're a provider for the programs, which most are, then you pick that one. And that's it. For me, if we can solve that risk, the biggest financial risk for widows, oh boy, your financial security, all the projections that I told you about the financial advisors do, that Keystone Law Partners does, they look at it 5, 10, 20 years. If we don't have to build that into your financial future, it is so much easier to say, you're good. Like we just got your regular budget, maybe another car every few years, maybe a little house repair every few years. But other than that, easy breezy. For me, that's the biggest thing to solve, is to solve that. Now that plan is something we do. We help you put together, well, which pieces and all that, right? And that's something we help you do. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. All right. Now, the third thing that I wanted to talk about. So first we talked about your, oh my gosh, my mind just went blank. All right, let's move on. Actually, I'm close to running out of time. Simple for you or simple for them? I need to cover this because too many times I've seen widows walk away with a humongous, massive problem. I'm sorry, not walk away, walk into my office because they didn't do anything when their husband passed away. When a husband passes away, don't ever assume it is automatic, that it's automatic, everything's just done. We had a trust, we had a will, and now I don't have to do anything. No, you have to go through and administer the estate. It is all your, it's a big bucket if you mix it all up, yes, but that's not how the law treats it. It's not how probate treats it, and that may not be how the kids treat it, especially if you have a blended family, okay? The law looks at it as your share, his share, and his separate property, and you have to do some analysis here. You have to at least think about it. You've got to figure this out because sometimes it's not automatic, and sometimes it's not very easy, and if you let it go year after year, it can cause a big, huge mess, okay? Cleaning it up right away is the only way to make sure you have the financial security that you think you have, okay? I'm going to skip some of these because this is legalese, and I just want you to know what ends up happening, and this has happened more times than I care to count, is like this gal came in, her husband had passed away years ago, and came time to sell the house, downsized, excuse me, and she couldn't sell her house. The title company said, the house is still in your husband's name. Sorry, ma'am, you can't sell this. So she had to go to probate years later. And then once we did that, we found out some of the investments were still in his name and not in her name. Some of the U.S. savings bonds were still in his name. And, I mean, there was just lots of things that were in his name. She couldn't do anything with them. Oh my gosh, right? Giant can of worms. Well, when you have to open a probate, guess what? You have to send out all kinds of weird, crazy legal notices to all the heirs. They had joint children. This wasn't a blended family. And of course, they've got one of the kids who's not that easy to get along with, throws a giant monkey wrench in the whole thing. Wants to contest it, wants to just, throwing out all kinds of insane allegations because, you know what, I guess some people just have nothing better to do with their life. And the court has to entertain and listen to them. And it just dragged her through a mess. Had she done this right away, it would have been so much faster, cleaner, simpler. Sometimes it can be done without anything going to court. Can be done quickly, efficiently. If it has to go to court, there are good, simple strategies to use to keep the family knowing this is normal, this is normal, this is normal. There's nothing weird going on here, and get it quickly into the surviving spouse's name. That's the key. Quickly get it consolidated. The best way to do that, in my opinion, is to have a trust. And whether if you're in a blended family or if you're in a traditional nuclear family, the trust is the way to go. You might have a trust for each of you. You might have a joint trust. But either way, a will is not the answer in Arizona. A will has to go to probate. A trust does not. It stays private. You stay in control. If you need to make changes, very easy. Very hard for anybody to question or challenge it. Very hard. And those are some of the big benefits. I'm not going to go through the whole thing of what a trust is right now. We've got other web classes that you're welcome to look in on and check those out. All right. I can breathe for a minute. Let me catch a drink. We're going to switch gears here. So for those, you can hear the kids, they're wrapping up their virtual school for lunchtime. We're going to switch gears here now. I save a few minutes here at the end for those of you who are clients already of ours. If something we talked about today, I want you to know if something we talked about sparked a thought in you of, oh my gosh, I don't know if that's taken care of. That's fine. I need you to call the office and schedule your next appointment, okay? Call the office and say, hey, I did my plan a couple years ago or whenever it was. I need to sit down and talk to somebody because I have questions about A, B, C. They will help you get that process started. What I'm going to describe next is for the rest of you who haven't ever worked with us before. If this has, sparked some, oh my gosh, I need to learn some more about this. I need to figure this out. We have a special process for you because you're brand new to us. And that's what I'm going to spend the rest of my time describing, is what that process is for you. Never been a client of Keystone, and you're ready to sort of say, look, there's too much information here. I got to download this like drinking from a fire hose. Can I please just get to a point where I know I've taken care of my family? Yes, you can. That's what this is for. So this is how we do that. Okay, we do that through something we call the Trust Care Program. You can't get that anywhere else. We're the only law firm in town that has it. We're the only law firm, I think, in the country that has it because I built it. I built it after learning that typical estate planning, it might work. It's like gambling, right? You put together a will or a trust, and you hope that 10 or 20 or 30 years later it still works. And what I was just saying was too many families going through probate, fighting with each other, fighting with the system, fighting with banks, fighting with nursing homes. And they didn't have to. Their will was 5, 10, 20 years old, wasn't kept up to date, and the people who were making all the money in the probate were the lawyers. And that's just completely wrong. So we created Trust Care as a way to get it done the first time, get it done, or get it redone if it's not the first time, but then keep it up to date every year. And that's the pattern we get into with our clients. That's what I've discovered works, is an annual checkup. So we do lots of education like this, like what you're watching right now, and it is intended to help you get a flavor of who we are. You can see I'm not in a black suit and tie. When I go to the office, I dress up a little bit more, right? When I meet face to face. But when I'm working from home, I'm gonna wear my polo shirts. But we do lots of public education. This is generally the first step for most people, is they do some kind of group education, get to know who we are, the types of things that we can help with, the types of information that we can share, and see if it's something you need to do. Low pressure, easy to do, and now it's even easier because you can do it straight from home. The next step, if you need to take a next step, is what we call a discovery hour. That's a one-on-one private appointment you do with my team. And then if you say, yep, during that meeting, let's get started, then you move into step 3, which is let's start building this up and building whatever steps, whatever plan, whatever needs to happen. That's how we do this. Now, if you're married, we generally say you've got to come to that meeting, that discovery hour, with your spouse. I'm assuming that they're going to have some input, they're going to have some questions. If you're not married, I absolutely bring the adult child with you who's going to be the trusted one, right? The one who's going to help. They're going to have questions. They're going to think of things you didn't think about. They're going to want to know who we are. It usually is really helpful if they get to know us early as well, because they may need to call us later and ask for help during an emergency. And so those are just a couple of tips that I say. You should know everything that we do on all of this stuff, protecting your assets, we do based on flat fee packages. So we're not the cheapest place in town. We don't strive to be, because I always wonder, like, I know what it costs to do this work well and to do it right. Like, what are these other places leaving out? Having reviewed enough of them, I know what they're leaving out now. I can't say I know what all of them are leaving out, but I know they have to leave some things out. And so, but the benefit you get is that everything is a flat fee. You know about it up front, so you don't have to commit to anything unless you know and you're comfortable that what you're getting is worth way more. Like, you're getting this, and it's only going to cost you this. It's worth way more than what you're investing. So we go through at that discovery hour all the different packages, what's relevant, what's not relevant, and you kind of see what you feel good with. Also, I always throw this one up just mostly for the cat, but we generally typically work with people who own a home and have at least $100,000 or more in savings. Up to about $10 million is really our sweet spot. Over $10 million, and we bring in some special counsel to help with those planning strategies. But in that range, it's absolutely worth it. You've got enough to make it make sense to protect and make this investment for your family. Your family's depending on you to do this. The one thing that is more of a soft characteristic, you see who I am, you hear who I am. We are not a grumpy bunch of grumpy cats at Keystone Law Firm. We're just not. We're happy, we're positive, we're optimistic people. We want to help you create the life that you want. We want to help you, not worry about this stuff. Go travel, have some fun, do the things you want to do with your family. Let your family know that you are doing this for them. I mean, that's why we exist. If you want a grumpy cat law firm, meh, they exist. We can refer you to them for sure. You may not have to look too far, but that's not us. So anyway, we want you to know that up front because that's what you're going to find when you meet with us. Our discovery hours, here's what it is a little more detailed. 3 main things, okay? Number 1, you're going to make sure we understand what your issues are. What are the issues that are happening or that you're thinking about or you're wondering about? Okay, what are they? Help us define those really well so we understand them really well. Number 2, what are your goals with these things? Okay, we understand what the problem is. How do you see this thing being fixed? What are your goals, right? And then number 3, that will help us tell you, help my team tell you, okay, here's the options that are relevant for you. A, B, C, not X, Y, Z. Okay, so you'll want to be able to see, okay, good. I don't need to worry about those 4,000 things I read about on the internet. I just need to look at A, B, and C. Great. That's the power of how we've designed this discovery hour, just to give you that very concrete clarity. What I've seen a lot of law firms do is not only are they going to charge you by the minute, which is just terrible, but by the time you leave the appointment, you're as confused as can be. You're just like thrown out with a million different options, and you're like, I don't even know which ones I need to consider. Well, that's not what we do. Our discovery hour is intended so you walk out of there going, I got it. I have option A, B, and C. Perfect. And if you want to make a choice, you can make a choice, right? You will walk out of there. I built the discovery hour not just to give you that clarity, but to also give you some tangible things, okay? That clarity, that discovery hour value is $500, but then some tangible things is our personal information book, worth $197. The Myths of Financial Security, that's that retirement map, right, that I told you about, that go through and tell you here's what your financial security is going to look like, customized for you. That's worth more than $500, I think. The Successor Trustee Handbook, worth $197, and my book, Pack Your Parachute, will instantly deliver that to you by email, worth $25. So literally just our first appointment process is something that's worth over $1,400 to you. You get tons of value out of that. That's not what we charge for it, obviously, but we do charge for that. It's a flat fee, $125 for you to be able to get all of that. Whether you hire us or not, I mean, we love helping families. So if you need our help and you think we can do that for you, then we'd love to work with you. If you don't, then you still walk away with tons of value from that first appointment. And we do. I give you 100% satisfaction on that investment. Even though it's a ton of value, you walk out of there with all of that just for 125 bucks. If you decide, you know what, it was a waste of your time, and you say, you know what, Francisco promised me it was going to do this, this, and this, and I don't feel like it delivered, you can get a refund, and my team is authorized to do that immediately. I want it to be worth it for you. So for the Corona special, right, the last couple months, my staff has been beating me up, and they won't let me let this go. We've been offering this at a slight discount for $75. So if you have never done business with us before and you want to try it out, this is a good, easy way, a low-pressure way to do that. For 75 bucks, you can find a time that works for you, and it's just $75. And you get all that massive value to go with it. That's all I have for today. I hope it was helpful. If you want to schedule that, what I recommend you do is you use this as the moment in your life to say, that's it. I'm not going to procrastinate anymore. I've got a couple minutes right now. I'm going to jump on my calendar. I'm going to look when I'm available. You go to this website, bit.ly, bit.ly/Keystone Appointment. Fill that, put that in your website, on your phone, on your computer, and it will take you right to a calendar where you can schedule a time that works for you. We're doing these by video, kind of like this, or by phone, and my team makes it very easy for you to prepare. There's not you don't need to organize your whole financial life. You just need to sit down and review a couple emails from us and not answer any questions, but talk to my staff to get it formalized, and then show up, and that's it. The staff will help you figure this out, help you get the clarity and the direction you want for your family. And it's pretty simple. All right. That's all I got. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe out there. I finally see on the horizon some temperature drop in Arizona, so I'm going woohoo! Super excited about that. Holidays coming around the corner. Everybody have a great day, and thanks for joining.